of which I detect are doing like a half clutch with the hi-hat. So it's not quite a full, but it's just there
Yeah.
almost. So they're not eating poppadoms, they're just eating crunchy crisps, you call them chips.
Yeah.
But yeah. Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of That's Audiophiles. My name's John, his name is Andy. The sky is blue, my hands untied, a world that's true through our clean eyes. Just look at you with burning lips, you're living proof at my fingertips. More on that later. But first, Andy, how the devil are you?
I am doing well. Thank you for asking, John. How you doing?
Yeah, come see, come sir. So you got a tune for us to listen to?
I do.
What is in the box?
In the box, you will find a song called "Demagnetized," and it is by a band called Primo Danger. So, I'm sure you've not heard these guys before, but I'd be interested to hear what you have to say about them. So please go off, give this thing a listen, and come back and let me know what you think, man.
Okay. Mention the S word, but it sounds like them. Yeah, straight off the bat in there. So you had this really nice first guitar with the drum, and I think he was doing a half like with the hi-hat. There's a bit of that there, good hear. And then in comes the bass and the second guitar, and they all mesh together. Beautiful lattice work. Yeah, interesting. So that's interesting. We have not only the music sounding right, but even the sort of effects and the vocals sound very much like Mr. Whitehouse. Yeah, and I saw this as a demo because that was a really strange noise you just did. It did sound a bit like a burp, but let's go back and enjoy that again. Some bits of that were delightful, some of it not. So yeah, that was a really interesting bit there. Kind of had him singing in that sort of slightly sort of pushed through thing that certain singer from a certain New York band from the early noughties would do the same. And then the second line is like he's doing an impersonation of Bowie circa scary monsters, super creeps. Odd. I guess they're working stuff out. This is a demo. I hope they cut that. But it was kind of fun. And then this nice bit going through after that, where you had these building chords, and then it dropped out. So you just had the bass for a bit, which is again really nice, and the drums. And then you had this sort of like hipster rambling over the top, which is just really, it's like someone who's really loud in a coffee shop. Yeah, I didn't enjoy that bit. Okay.
It's gotta roll with it, yeah. I'm a loser inside of my mind, 'cause can't afford redeeming feelings. Oh yeah, the world's bottom just floats on without me, 'cause it can't handle me now.
Oh, so we had twice around the block, as it were. Yeah, it's interesting that. I mean, it's a demo. I don't know if they mean like the quality of it. It was a little bit, it was sort of rough sounding, and you had these distorted bits. But I think that added to the charm and style of the song. It's not a problem for me. Yeah, so David Bowie impersonation and hipster coffee shop rambling aside, this is really enjoyable. I like the sort of twin guitar parts to it. It sounded like the first guitar kept going at the first time round in the sort of verse bit before the vocalizing, and then the second guitar came back, that kept going and matching the vocal melody the second time round, the sort of first verse before the vocalizing. So they're switching it, which is cool as well. Yeah, this is perfectly enjoyable, and a little slice of sort of it's weird in 2025 we're talking about the noughties as throwback retro, which was indeed a throwback and retro from the previous incarnation of this garage rock. I guess life, that's the way life goes. But yeah, this is thoroughly enjoyable. Right, let's find out a little bit more about Primo Danger. They just added an L, it'd be Primo Dangler, which would be even funnier. But yeah, let's find out more about Primo Danger. Let's go back and chop it up with Andy.
All right, you're back. So, what did you make of the Primo Danger and the song Demagnetized?
Well, I did have a couple of thoughts. One, Primo Danger sounds like some sort of quote from somebody, but I just roughly just the very faint echoes of somebody saying, "Oh, it's Primo Danger" or something, but I don't know. But also, they're just one letter short of being called Primo Dangler, which I think would be even better. But anyway, so it's a short little number, and it starts right out of the gate from the word go, like a tramp on chips. The semi-scuzzy guitar and the beat from the drums, of which I detect are doing like a half clutch for the hi-hat. So it's not quite that full, but it's just there,
Yeah.
almost. So they're not eating poppadoms, they're just eating crunchy crisps. You call them chips.
Yeah.
But yeah, it put me in mind of the early noughties, this sound. the first sort of guitar. And then sure enough, enters stage left, the second guitar and the bass, with riffs hewn from the same lathe as those cheeky chaps who held in the Naughties garage rock revival, and they fit together so like lattice work. Now, I won't mention the strokes here because that would be lazy and too easy. So after a couple of bars, in come the vocals, and they kind of replace the second guitar riff, and they go along the similar lines as the first guitar riff. And they have that curious effect of seemingly emanating from a microphone that was bought from Texas Instruments circa 1985. A couple of steps up from Speak and Spell. I'm sure it reminds me of somebody, but I'm drawing a complete White House. I mean, Casablanca. With his AM diction, it's difficult to discern the lyrics, but it all sounds very pleasing enough. And the chappie ends one of the lines, and I had to go back and check, and it is at 36 seconds exactly. But yeah, it ends one of the lines with a gurgle that sounds remarkably like a burp. And I am then reminded that this is a demo, so extraneous noises are almost de rigueur. We get a Back for Life full of da-da-das, which are aped by the bass. It's very pleasing. And then the first guitar drops out as the second guitar returns for a livelier and sort of higher variation. It's not the same as the riff that he was doing, the start of the song. But it's really pleasing. I really like that riff, actually. It's my favourite sort of guitar part of all the bits. Curiously, then, we get this very strange bit vocally where lines A and C are delivered in a classic Casablanca's style, like he's hollering from the back seat of a Citroen Picasso. Whereas lines B and D are more along the lines of Hammer House of Horror style Bowie from Scary Monsters and Super Creeps era. Great fun, if a little daft. Speaking of which, we then get a sort of brace of building chords that's really nice, and then it just drops out to just the bass and the drums. Classic style, sounds great. I really hope this next bit was some sort of indulgence for the demo and rightfully purged or sort of expunged from all completed version. We are treated as some hipster jabbering away who's instantly annoying. It sounds like somebody talking too loud in a coffee shop, like they've still got water in their ear from when they've been swimming. And when the way he says sometimes you've got to roll with it is eminently punchable. Yeah. Anyway, the first guitar creeps back in, and then the second guitar with the original riff that is from the start of the song. Old Texas Instruments returns. And for this verse, the first guitar drops out and the vocal melody mimics the second guitar's riff. I hope you're keeping up with this, first and second. We then recycle all the way through again. So we get that's I don't know the lyrics because it's really hard to tell. But we're getting that verse, we're getting the vocalizing, the da-da-das, we get that lovely bright riff again. We then get the silly lower Bowie voice, and then we get the rising chords, and then it drops out and it ends with a quick final edict from the guitar. This was a sack full of fun. It's sort of, I was pontificating this in the year 2025. We're talking about the early noughties like a real throwback and retro. It was, of course, at the time, the early noughties, it was a throwback and retro to what preceded it, and what goes around comes around, and all that sort of thing. But this is, at the time, particularly the Strokes and then others that followed, it was a shot in the arm for real music to come back again. That was simple guitar forward and all that. And I don't know if you'd ever get that again because music seems to have fractured so much. There isn't the main dominating of us. You watch the awards ceremonies from various countries, but apart from that, people get their music and are completely oblivious of how it may be in the charts or whatever at the time. So I can quite easily and quite happily go without hearing a Taylor Swift song for the rest of my life. No problem. Challenge accepted. I've actually bought so far, I think 6 or 7 albums this year from bands that I knew this year and bands that I've not heard before. So yeah, I don't think you get that wave anymore that you got then, which I think is a shame in a way. But but I'm guessing this is fairly recent in the last few years, and it's nice to hear this sort of music coming out again. So yeah, I enjoyed it.
Awesome. Glad you liked it. Yeah, the Primo Danger. They are a Dallas-based five-piece who describe themselves as neurotic indie filth, while others have described their sound as having post-punk, garage, and indie rock leanings. They are comprised of Philip Jackson, vocalist, Shane O'Barr, lead guitar, Skylar Chilton, rhythm guitar, Billy Castaneda on bass, and Jesse Cooker on drums. The band has been active since 2018, and since their inception have released 4 singles, an EP, and an LP. In 2019, they released their first single, Found Out, and less than a year later came Oh the Stars. Later in 2020, they debuted their first EP entitled Welcome Son, which garnered them a cult following and more press in Texas and the American Southwest. In 2021 saw the release of their next single, Delirium, and more touring and playing around the Dallas and surrounding areas. In 2023, the band released 2 more singles, Part-Time and later Demagnetized. Finally, in 2024, Primo Danger released their much-anticipated LP entitled A Wasting Life and Quasi-Healing. The track that we listened to today, obviously, was featured on the single of the same name, but it was also included on the aforementioned album, A Wasting Life and Quasi-Healing. And over at DestroyResist.com, they wrote, demonstrative lyrically, dense instrumentally, and very much gritty as to the production and the band's ardent delivery, the album is a solid manifestation of the Primo Danger's take on punk rock, steadfast and quirky at the same time, handling both melody and distortion equally well, and bringing forth a dynamic and immediately winsome result. Darkeninghearts.com reviewed the track and wrote this of the song that we listened to today. The neurotic post-punk track, Demagnetized, is featured on the newest release by Primo Danger. The song fuels the angular indie guitars and their ferocious energy with high-gain fuzziness and vocals that strangely alternate between straight-faced spoken verses and an upbeat indie style to emphasize the deeply felt aspect of those lyrics, which describe burning out and struggling to seek aspirations. And finally, Critical Zero reviewed the track and wrote this. Dallas-based band Primo Danger's latest single, Demagnetized, is a musical experience that combines the best of new wave post-punk and garage rock vibes. It's a breath of fresh air in a world of music that is cleverly constructed, with its cleverly constructed sound that brings to mind the early Strokes. The guitars take center stage in the track with their tone and texture adding depth to the music. The vocals are also worth mentioning with their gritty UK sound that adds an edginess to the overall vibe of the song. What sets Demagnetized apart from other tracks is the lyrics. They remind us of the formulaic nature of much of today's music, and that the need to break free from the constraints can stifle creativity by explaining in the song what they should be doing next in formulated music. So, since we're talking about those lyrics, let's jump into them. I'm a loser inside of this place, but all the winners are so pretentious. Take a load off and bury your troubles and all the treasures that you just cannot take out. I'm burning out as I reach for the sun, but no one knows it. No one knows it. I'm wasting all the time in the world, but no one knows it. No one knows it. I'm taking everything with a grain of salt because you don't know how to hold it out. Wasting all this time, wasting always. I'm a loser inside of my mind because I cannot move forward, redeeming feelings. See the world's bottom just float on without me because it can't handle me now. I'm burning out as I reach for the sun, but no one knows it. No one knows it. I'm wasting all the time in the world, but no one knows it. No, no one knows it. I'm taking everything with a grain of salt because you don't know how to hold it out. Wasting all this time, wasting always. So yes, there you have it. I was interested to hear what you thought about these guys. So thank you for giving them a listen. John, go on.
Can I ask? The tag obviously said it was a demo version. I take it that's just because it was easier to get to not get blocked, etc.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. And to be fair, there really isn't
I'll
a
say, is there
difference.
much difference
No.
between them?
Well, exactly. So the sort of that sort of spoken word overheard conversation bit, which isn't even included in the lyrics, is in the actual song itself. And I think that is, I know you're shaking your head. I think that is critical of bands and heads of labels and their little banters and back and forth about, so I think it's kind of a piss take on that. But if it just from an auditory standpoint you don't like it, I totally get that. That's fine. But I mean, I'm a huge fan of Weezer's the sweater song "Undone," which is mostly
God.
just banter between people and not actual lyrics. So it's not nothing I've never heard before, but I'm sure it's nothing you've never heard before too. You just aren't a fan, which is totally fine.
Yeah, it just on first listen, I just yeah, I just found it annoying.
Yeah,
Um,
there you go.
but I don't know if it's interesting because just because I had the tag demo, I don't know if that works subconsciously on you, but it sounded slightly rough around the edges. And not to the song's detriment, actually. It
Yeah.
was probably the sort of sound I prefer.
Yep.
This sort of thing. And all piss taking aside about Casablancas, he is actually a great singer, and that effect that they get from this lo-fi wheezy microphone,
Yeah.
Texas Instrument, thingy, is a great sound. It is, and I love it.
Yeah, it's so great that it would go on to influence so many countless bands that came after it. I mean, I can't, and even if those bands don't always use it, they implement it on certain tracks to capture that sound. So yeah, it was obviously taken off like wildfire since Casablanca sort of dusted it off and started using it a lot for the stroke stuff. So yeah, you're right. Absolutely.
It's funny, really, because you think about the garage revival of the early noughties, and you probably think the first wave in particular is American bands, but pretty much all of them got their initial success in the UK. Strokes especially, but Black Keys as well, and other bands, White Stripes as well, actually. Were much bigger in the UK than in America because it takes a lot more to crack America for a start, particularly if you're an independent sounding band. And then the next lot, with Interpol, Block Party, Franz Ferdinand, stuff like that, all great stuff. Yeah, real fondness for all that shit as well.
Yeah, same here. Well, thank you so much for giving these guys a listen. Perhaps down the road we'll check them out again. I'm going to keep my ear to the ground, and hopefully they continue to release some really good stuff. I think there's been a little bit of turnover of late. So the members that I named may not at this time be the current members. I think that they were looking to replace one of the guitarists the last time I saw something, but I don't think they've done anything yet. But I always like stumbling across these gems that are on some obscure Spotify list. They've only got a couple of tracks out, and then it gives me something to kind of monitor and lord over and see kind of from afar view the progression of, in hopes that they break through or find, they really hone their sound and take off from there. Because as nerdy as it sounds, there's something fun about finding a band so early on that you truly get to watch the whole time lapse of how they develop and how they crescendo and reach the top. So and it happens so rarely because, like you said, it's hard to break through no matter where it is, but especially in the States to try to break through. So it doesn't happen that often, but if you find that one star that truly ascends, it's really cool to watch, and it's kind of redeeming because even though you're not part of it at all, you from afar and from a distance kind of got to watch it unfold. So yeah, it's really there'll be plenty of bands, and there have been on this channel that fucking nobody knows about, and there's no rightful reason why they yet should. But it is kind of fun to kind of just track them and in hopes that they get to where they want to go. You know what I mean? So thanks so much for giving this a listen, John. Really do appreciate it. Everybody out there in the listening audience, please let us know what you made of the song. You liked it, disliked it, whatever. Take a time out of your day, pop something in the comment field. Please feel free to do so. Also, like, share, and subscribe if you'd be so inclined. We really do appreciate hearing from you guys, and we really do appreciate you guys all helping out here at the channel by offering up likes, shares, all that fun stuff. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And hopefully John and I will catch all y'all in growing numbers on the next installment of the Audiophiles. See you later, guys.